Bunker Hill Community College is inspiring dreams through academic excellence, community engagement, and workforce partnerships. Learn more at bhcc.edu.
What happens when mental health and hair care intersect, not just in salons, but at scale across the country or even the globe? We're joined by Dr. Afiya Mbilishaka, a clinical psychologist and hairstylist who's pioneering the movement known as psychotherapy to answer just that. Dr. Afiya, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, and I love your hair.
I was about to say the same thing to you. Thank you. So tell me a little bit about why hair care and mental health support are so closely connected.
Well, hair is a complex language system. It can tell how old you are, your marital status, your spiritual beliefs, but also your understanding of feelings, identity, and the connection between the two.
And that's something that we don't always think about in terms of how it might relate to our emotional health.
No, we don't think about it, but it clearly does in terms of the anxiety, the pride, the happiness, the joy, the stress of it all. I know even in deciding what hairstyle I was going to wear today, I had to go through all those stages too.
Yes. And to that point, when somebody else has done my hair, I tend to feel a lot better than me having to wake up and figure out what in the world I'm going to do. Although I do love you, Jackie. That's my hair's name.
I don't even have a name.
We got to find a name for yours. Yeah, we'll work on that. So I just want to drop a statistic here. Black women's hair is 2.5 times more likely to be perceived as unprofessional. And also, Black women, especially with coiled or textured hair, are 2 times as likely to experience microaggressions in the workplace than Black women with straighter hair. So what do numbers like that tell us about how our hair and the way that we choose to wear it in everyday life can sometimes attract this unwanted attention?
Yeah, there is so much bias around our hair textures, our hairstyles, but we definitely need to understand it in a system of white supremacy and racism, right? Where women, Black women in particular, are attacked in terms of our aesthetics, needing to have long or straight hair to be seen as professional, or having long or straight hair to be viewed as feminine. And so battling this racial, gender bias, and even then projecting such negativity on our beautiful hair.
Yeah, you have researched Afro-Cuban society and how racial politics can show up in hair there. And I think a lot about the whole good hair narrative that we have seen persist throughout the U.S. Chris Rock made a whole documentary about it, right? How do we kind of hurt ourselves in that way?
It's complex. It's so intergenerational because even thinking about some of the research that I was doing in the Caribbean, they say in the U.S., when the U.S. sneezes, the Caribbean gets a cold. And so to think about this sort of global or international exchange of challenging Blackness and even just how it's been passed down generation to generation to, again, sustain these systems versus resist them and challenge them. So even in a place where we think about like Cuba having such liberation, that they still face some of the same issues we face here.
Do you think that we've overcome that?
No.
To an extent, a little bit?
No, yes and no. I do think in the 1960s and 70s, when people went from being called colored or Negro to Black and African, there was a change in consciousness that related to that change in aesthetic. So that big Black is beautiful movement.
Afro sheen.
Yes. I love watching the commercials on YouTube that it really says that African essence and pride, that I think that was really important. And so my parents' generation, my mom proudly said she wore a natural and had an afro, but I do think that impacted the way that she talked about my hair. So even though she later straightened her hair and had a chemical relaxer, and well, she had a jerry curl, then a chemical relaxer.
Listen, we've been through a lot in the Black hair community.
Yeah, but she never let me get one. And so she was like, you don't need it. Like, I've gone through these things, so you don't have to do it. And so just even the pride that she took in caring for my hair, that this was one of our sacred bonding opportunities where she would affirm me, my hair and beauty. And I do think a lot of like the Gen Z have never had chemical relaxers. So it's interesting that they never had to fully like transition, that there's been much more embracing of natural textures.
That. Yeah, because as a millennial, like when I say we have been through it a lot, like me and Jackie been through it. Okay, like we were natural to start. We went through the press and curl phase. We had braids, relaxer, etc. Big chopped it, natural styles. Now, like many millennial Black women, I'm considering locks every other day, but don't know how it's going to be. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But even like I've had family members be like, locks? Oh, like what? Like what? That's what you're going to do? And so I think there is still a lot that we have to work through.
Yeah, and I'm struck by the locks comment because I do think there's different meaning put on locks and braids versus maybe loose hair. But locks have generally been associated with resistance and warriorhood, even like the Maasai in Kenya and Tanzania, that in order to be a warrior, you actually have to grow locks, or to think about Rastafarian movements and that spiritual connection, or just if we look around the globe, usually locks are associated with fighting back.
So that kind of raises this point about where we can see hair being powerful and where we can kind of claim it for our own and claim it in spaces that are safe for us to wear our hair in any given way. One place we see that is salons and barbershops. Tell me why these are places where that can really be hotbeds of not only empowerment, but also healing.
Ooh, I love salons, so much so that I went and worked at a salon even after having a PhD because I knew that's where the people were.
And I'm sure it was helpful for your research.
Yes, but my family was concerned, like, do you have enough money? Why are you working at a salon? You have a whole private practice. But I do think salons and barbershops are cultural hubs, that this is a sacred space where people can actually let their hair down, literally, to have certain conversations. It's very economic in terms of people are selling things.
Yes, the CD man coming in there.
Right.
Well, now I don't know what they're selling, but
CD, DVD, person.
Right,
I don't
T-shirts,
think they do.
maybe.
Socks, T-shirts, bed sheets, everything.
Bags, handbags.
We have our own economic system in there. I think, too, in terms of the political conversations that are happening, and this, again, is intergenerational, whether it was Martin Luther King organizing different movements in barbershops and salons, like voting drives and things like that, or organizing protests, or even like Marcus Garvey in Jamaica learned how to debate people based on conversations he would have in barbershops. So it really develops people politically, that the news could be on or music is on and people are weighing in on what is happening in society at large and even within their community too.
And what about the stylists themselves? How can those spaces be a form of healing and empowerment for them?
Ooh, I like that question. Yeah, there is something very therapeutic that happens even as an artist, right? In terms of the opportunity to create, but also to put so much energy into healing. I do think it's a reciprocal process. Even when I have a really great therapy session, I'm like, I feel better about myself. And to even think about then those hair sessions that I have where I've transformed someone's appearance, that there's this exchange, there's reciprocity. And so to make someone feel better does essentially like fuel the stylist as well.
I think about those videos. I don't know if you've ever seen them on social media where they'll take people who, a lot of times it's Black women and kind of older Black women who maybe they just don't have the time or don't make the time to take care of themselves. But they'll get these makeovers and they'll spin them around in the chair. They start crying. But the stylist is going crazy because they're like, I did that.
Yes, it is powerful to see someone transform before your very eyes and to know that you did that. Everyone wants to look beautiful. And so to think about if we can bring someone to that experience, and beauty isn't just about appearance, it's a feeling. And so you can really transform someone's emotional state through the hair care process.
Now, of course, we talked about how our hair is not always acceptable in every place, but there have been policy changes to change that. And I know that you testified before Congress around the Crown Act, which was pushed in part by our own Massachusetts Congresswoman, Ayanna Pressley. How has that made an impact?
Well, I think that by law, we have to pay attention to hair discrimination now. I think it was happening so often that it wasn't being counted or acknowledged, but now that it is actually in several states, not all.
Only 27 out of 50.
Okay, numbers.
Listen.
But to think about that, those others, other 23 do not have that, and so people aren't protected. I think that it's done a really great job of heightening awareness, but it's a matter of how well it's enforced as well.
Why did we need a law to make that plain?
That's what people ask me all the time, and I really struggle. But we, again, have to think about the nature and the politics of this country where unfortunately, Black people have always been discriminated against, that's actually embedded into the history and culture of this country. And so hair is actually one of those methodologies. So when we even think about the Civil Rights Act of 64, that it said it is illegal to discriminate against someone based on race. But there was a loophole. It didn't mention hair at all. And so hair is a part of our racial phenotype, our racial expression. And so if you could discriminate based on hair, then that was like the safe way to discriminate. And so now to really make sure hair is protected as understanding racism in general.
And I know we've come a long way with having the Crown Act. Obviously, not all 50 states have adopted it, but how much further do we have to go in achieving that equity?
Pretty far. I love politics and rules and law, but it's only as effective as it's able to be enforced. And so I don't know if every school is being evaluated for their dress code to see the racial bias that's in it. I don't know if every job is being evaluated for the headshots that they require their team to post and what style is appropriate. So I think that there's still so much more assessment to actually look at the existing policies and to make sure that people understand just how the connection between race, racism, and beauty, and to be able to challenge where it's perpetuating violence to some degree in terms of our bodies and being hypercritical and judgmental.
And I also imagine challenging hypocrisy. Your head went from this way to that way. Because, like, we see other races wearing hairstyles that we have been discriminated against for, but they're seeming to get away with it.
Yeah,
what's that about, Dr. Afiya?
You're getting into it, but it really makes me think about culture, right? In terms of Dr. Wade Noble's a famous Black psychologist. He says that culture is a design for living and patterns for interpreting reality. Again, design for living and patterns for interpreting reality. So it's right for one group to do something and wrong for another group to do it. It's embedded into our culture to evaluate things in this sort of hypocrisy and biased way.
Do you think there was an artist whose name I cannot remember, but they did this project where they took a lot of middle-aged working white women and they gave them these very Black hairstyles. I don't know if you've ever seen this. So they had like cornrows with like curls coming out the top, et cetera. Beautiful hairstyles. But it was just so interesting because we don't always see that on that population of people. But do you think if we began to see that more, I mean, obviously we already do in terms of appropriation, but if we saw it more, would this discrimination be lessened?
I don't know. Again, I'm mindful of the existing biases and privileges that, there's this white ideal of beauty, and which could then make people lean more into those styles if whiteness says that. But I just feel like there'd still be some loophole that the hair needs to be blonde or straight in order to even have braids. So I'm just thinking about how potentially there still would be a hierarchy and aesthetics in that way.
Yeah. I mean, you never know, right? I think like with social media, to your point about Gen Z, we have so much more access now to seeing, even just from pure, like, how do you take care of your hair at home? Like, I think there were things that weren't accessible when I was growing up that now I'm like, oh, like the girls are learning, right? I'm still trying to learn. Jackie and I are still on our journey together, but we're getting there. And so how can people incorporate certain rituals or practices in their own at-home hair care to help support their emotional health?
Oh, I love a good wash day routine.
Me too.
Yeah, because we can really engage in mindfulness, right? In terms of listening to certain music that's affirming, to having certain candles or aromatherapy in your space that relaxes your nervous system. I really enjoy like really smooth feeling products that we can just moisturize our hair. And I think it's really a matter of engaging all of our senses, but also speaking words of affirmation to ourselves, to say something like, I feel rooted, right? To think about just that grounding and rooted feeling, that can be a way that we care for ourselves and our hair to really get to the core of what some of our stressors are and to really relax our whole body through the hair care process.
So lastly, Dr. Afiya, we are obviously living in a time where DEI policies are being challenged. So how do you continue to push policy that would end discrimination based on hair in a moment like this?
Ooh, Ooh, this is a hard-hitting question.
Welcome to Rooted.
Yeah, I just think of that it's about education. I really enjoy having conversations with children so that next generation has awareness, insight, skills, can resist and push back, and they can't, I guess, be controlled in the same way that previous generations have been in terms of hiding certain information. The way that my 2-year-old niece and nephew can work a phone better than me really suggests that they can have access to information that we didn't have. And I think that that's part of the movements to really inform a society.
Well, Dr. Afiya, this has been such a pleasure. Jackie and I both thank you so very much for sharing your vision and your voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're proud to partner with Bunker Hill Community College, powering Boston's future workforce through access, equity, and innovation in higher education. Thank you for supporting Rooted and the future of public media. Click the link in the description or visit bhcc.edu to learn more.